Fabulous, it's working. I've had such a week of connectivity issues this week, so I've gone back to working in halls and like, yeah, Wi-Fi's not been fantastic. So I'm like, yeah, Wi-Fi works. So you make yourself comfy, close your eyes, and then we'll begin. So this lesson blends some of my favourite movements together. I would actually say it's sneaking into all my lessons if I'm honest, but this is like purely a big wiggle roll around. So I'm trained in teaching somatics. I also attend lots and lots of Feldenkrais lessons, and then I'm trained in teaching yoga. So it's a bit of a mishmash of everything. Really, really good for your hips, back, legs, and yeah. Even though we might not do much stretching per se, it is really powerful at getting rid of tension in your muscles. So closing your eyes and just beginning to sense the space that you occupy on the floor. Sensing the weight of your head, your shoulders, your hips, everything that kind of feels heavy and gives weight to the floor. Noticing where the body doesn't touch the floor, so back of the neck, lower back, back to the knees, however you've arranged yourself. And sensing the length of the legs, sensing the length of the arms. And just noticing how your hands are. Are your hands relaxed? Are your hands tense? Any twitching in fingers? And even focusing on your feet, which ways do your toes point? Do the toes point to the ceiling? Do they turn outwards? And would you say that your feet mirror each other, or are they both doing two different things altogether? And when should you know that, beginning to pay attention to your breathing? So we do a lot of things lying down in this lesson to start with, and that is a few things. Basically, your parasympathetic nervous system takes over, we become a lot calmer. And so as we become a lot calmer, we want to really utilize that in how we move. So try to think of being really effortless, not push into things. It's not a pushy class at all. So standing your feet up so you can feel the balls of your feet on the floor, you can feel the heels on the floor, you can feel your toes on the floor. And just beginning to gently lean the very base of your pelvis into the floor, so your tailbone, and then beginning to just press very softly the top of your pelvis into the floor so you can feel your lower back find the floor. And then again, leaning your tailbone softly into the floor. And then again, letting your lower back roll and find the floor. And just do that again a few times. So we're just noticing how just by rocking the pelvis, we get a flow of movement up the spine, up into the rib cage, up into the neck. And you might even feel kind of almost like you're saying an echo or a mirror image of what happens in your hips, happening in your head. So when you tip the base of the pelvis into the floor, you might feel the kind of the lower half of the skull finding the floor. And as you let your lower back find the floor, you might find more of your head touching the floor. And just noticing how this movement feels. We're going to come back to this as our very last movement. So does it feel stiff? Does it feel pain? Does it feel easy to do? You're feeling that echo from your hips to your head quite easily, or is it not so easy? And then settle down and float your right hip up off the floor. So you're keeping that left hip on the floor. Roll to the side, and then we're going to lift the left hip up off the floor. So you're rocking the pelvis from side to side. So left hip lifts, right hip lifts. Keeping your knees standing up. So we're not going quite into a full twist, but we're moving that pelvis, we're twisting the pelvis. You might even notice your belly twists. You might even feel kind of the weight of your shoulders kind of changes on the floor as well as you just rock the pelvis from side to side. And you might even feel the power of your feet as you're doing this. There's a sensation that your feet are pushing into the floor to move your hips. So rather than thinking of your pelvis, think of your feet pushing one at a time to move your pelvis from side to side. Press into your left foot, left hip lifts. Press into your right foot, right hip lifts. Can we do that? Imagine that you're kind of kneading the floor with your feet. And then settle down and have a little circle. Roll your pelvis. So bring your tailbone, your right hip, your lower back, your left hip. Have a bit of a roll of your pelvis. And just let your head join in. So whichever hip leans into the floor, let your head roll to that side. So if your right hip's on the floor, let your head roll to the right. As your left hip finds the floor, let your head roll to the left. So you're kind of circling your head at the top of your spine, mirroring what's happening with your pelvis. And then going the other way. Okay, so just staying in this position with your feet standing up and your knees pointing to the ceiling. I'd like you to bring both hands behind your head, interlacing your fingers, elbows wide. We're going to go into a full-on somatic movement. This is called an arch and curl. And what this is really good at doing is releasing tension that we hold through your the front of your body. So hopefully when you finish this, your spine might feel a little bit longer. Excuse me, I growled then. So with your hands behind your head and your elbows wide, tip your tailbone forwards into the floor so that lower back begins to float up. And then from your belly button, guide your belly button back towards your spine, pull it back, and you might feel then your lower back coming into the floor. So you're flattening your spine to the floor. And then release your belly button and roll the tailbone to the floor. So again, that lower back begins to arch. And then again, belly button pulls in. This is going to flatten your back. So feel how that back connects into the floor and then let it go. Tailbone rolls to the floor. So again, the lower back floats up. And then again, belly button, pull it back and feel how you can flatten that lower back into the floor just by using your belly button. So this is kind of manipulating your psoas muscle. So again, a really powerful muscle that it stabilizes that lower back. So just connect to that first, the flattening of the back from deep within. And then we're going to pause. So just releasing for a second. And then bring your elbows around the side of your face. So you're going to feel your shoulders kind of sliding across your ribs. And then let your elbows go towards the floor. Press them back towards the floor. So we can feel then some tension going into the backs of the shoulders. So I'll just might just whoop today. It just stop saying just whoop today would be useful, wouldn't it? I'm just going to take this. I've got a little thing on my camera, so I'm just going to make myself a little bit more visible. Okay, so what we're doing is from this place, we're going to bring the elbows around the side of the face and then we're going to bring them back and you're pressing them towards the floor, but you're doing this whilst you're laying on the floor. Okay, I'll just adjust this camera slightly. That's a bit useful with the camera thing off. So you're just tuning into the sensations you can feel here. So you can feel maybe the shoulders sliding across the back ribs, but then you can feel them kind of knitting together behind you and you can feel tension in those muscles. And what we're trying to do is feel those muscles releasing and kind of engaging and releasing. So let's kind of bring those two movements together now. So just pausing. So lean your tailbone forwards towards the floor so the lower back floats up. And then as you do that, press the elbows back towards the floor. So that is going to kind of intensify that sensation of arching. Now with your belly button, pull it in towards your spine so the back begins to flatten. And as you do that, bring the elbows together and then tuck the chin towards the chest. So you're kind of curling up as though you're going to go into a stomach crunch. Slowly releasing down, let your head come to the floor, elbows go wide. Roll the tailbone away. So again, the lower back begins to float up and arch. And then again, exhaling from the from the belly button. I'm having issues with my little microphone today. And again, bringing those elbows together, chin to chest. So we tighten in the front of our tummies, slowly with control, rolling down. Elbows go wide, roll the tailbone into the floor, lower back floats, press the elbows back. So now we're opening the front of our bodies. One more time, belly button comes in, back begins to flatten, and again, bringing those elbows towards each other, looking towards the tummy. And then relax down, just bring your head to the floor, extend your legs out just in front of you, and just pay attention just to your imprint on the floor. So you might feel a little different. I might take my glasses off. I think it's interrupting with my little headset today. So we're going to just kind of do another little version of that one. It's got a little twist on it. So what I'd like you to now do is bring your left knee in towards your body and hold the left knee with your left hand. And your right leg, stand it up. So again, you've got that right foot on the floor and the knee bent. And then your right hand is behind your head with the elbow dropped out to the side. So we start this movement by, again, leaning the tailbone into the floor so the lower back begins to arch. And then pull the belly button back to the spine so we can feel the lower back flattening. That left knee comes a little closer. And then lead with your right elbow. Guide your right elbow over towards your left knee. So you're kind of slightly crunching and twisting at the same time. Slowly with control, releasing back down. Head finds the floor, and then again roll the tailbone away. So again, that lower back arches away from the floor. Belly button comes in towards the spine, spine flattens, curling the right elbow over towards the left knee. So maybe turn your head as well, look with eyes. And then releasing softly down, roll the tailbone. So again, feel how the lower back floats away from the floor at the end of the movement. Belly button comes in, so back flattens. And again, one more time, curling the right elbow over towards the left knee. You might even notice those 2 points come a little closer of their own accord. And again, floating down. Now we've just come down, we're going to just keep that lower back arched. So the tailbone's on the floor, right elbow's on the floor. Just slowly begin to straighten your left leg along the floor like a little snake. Push the heel away, stay arched in that lower back. And then relax, just pause, let everything go. And then take that left leg, bring it back in. So we're going to repeat this an awful lot, so don't worry if you're not following quite. So take your left leg, bring it in towards your belly, and you've got your left hand on the front of the left knee. And then again, we take that arch of the lower back. So again, pressing the right elbow back. Belly button comes in to flatten the back, curling over towards the left knee. Unwinding back to the floor. And then again, you roll that tailbone, so feeling the lower back arch, and then slide the left foot along the floor, push the heel away, and then pause, let everything go. And then we're just going to do that one more time, so bringing that foot back in to rest. Knee comes in towards the belly, holding the left knee with the left hand. Left knee with left hand. Yeah, there we go, yeah. And then again, so start the movement by tailbone tipping forward so we can feel the gap behind the lower back. Oh. And then curling up so that right elbow moves over towards the left knee. Rolling back down towards the floor, and then slide the foot away in front of you. Push the heel away. And then relaxing. And then all we're going to do at the end of that is just extend both legs. And just check out how you rest into the floor. So like I said, that is a bit of it's a diagonal movement. So you might feel that the right shoulder rests into the floor a little bit better. You might feel the left hip rest into the floor a little bit better. I am absolutely fighting this head thing of mine today. Stay. Right. So repeating on the opposite side, we're going to stand up both feet and we're going to take it to the opposite side. So this time bringing your right leg in towards your body, holding that right leg with your right hand, placing your left hand behind the head, and then again lean your tailbone into the floor. So again that lower back begins to float up, feeling how the tummy extends and lengthens, and then belly button, pull it in. Notice how it curls the spine, guiding the left elbow over towards the right knee, rolling back down, and again roll the tailbone. So again we can feel that beautiful gap behind the lower back, and then again belly button, pull it in, it flattens the back, curling the left elbow over towards the right knee, and again slowly unwinding, tailbone comes into the floor, lower back begins to float. Exhaling, lower back comes in, curling over, and again coming back. So all we do now is we add in that little leg thing at the end. So lower back comes into floor, curling over towards that right knee. And then as you come back down this time, relaxing the elbow, taking the tailbone into the floor, straighten your right leg, slide it across the floor, flare the toes, kind of press the heel away, and then relax. Just feel everything soften. And then repeat. We're going to bring that leg back in towards us. Knee comes back towards the belly. And then again, lean the tailbone, press that left elbow back. So you're kind of feeling that you're kind of really trying to open out the front of the body. Lower back finds the floor, curling over. Slowly unwinding. And then slide the foot to the end of the mat. Push the heel away. So again, we've got that sense of openness, and then let go. Let everything settle. Final one. So again, we arch and we curl and twist, and then we arch again, but then we slide the foot away, push the heel to the end of the mat, really push away, feel the spread of the toes, and then relax. Slide your left foot to join the right, and just pay attention to your imprint on the floor. You might feel a little bit flatter maybe. Okay. So from here, let's begin our movements to seated. So we're going to do something a bit daft now. So not that that wasn't daft. So bringing your knees in towards your belly, placing your hands on your knees, and keep your pelvis still. So we're not going to roll or anything like that. We're going to keep the pelvis still. Take your left knee out towards the floor by your left side, and you're going to just stop before your pelvis rolls. So keep your pelvis still. Bring that knee back together. And again, you're just watching the knee with your eyes. Keep your hand on the knee, just taking that knee out. And so what we're doing really is we're just kind of seeing what our range of movement is in the hip. So again, keep the pelvis from rolling, keep the pelvis flat as you take that left knee out and bring it back. So just pay attention, looking at the knee with your eyes. And again, we're not tipping the pelvis, so just pay attention, get a good sense of what your hips mobility is. And noticing if it's jerky or not. Just personally, I've got a dodgy left hip. It's really weak compared to right, and I can feel it jerking away. And what I'm observing is when it releases tension. Can you make the next movement a little bit easier and less jerky? So next time you do this, let your pelvis roll as well. So you're going to roll all the way onto your left side. Use your right leg now. So lift your right leg up away from your left knee, and this is going to roll you back onto your back. So take your time just to roll back to your starting point. And then taking your left knee out to the side and roll all the way onto your left side. Lifting your right knee up until that point you feel yourself begin to float back onto your back. So really, really good this for your hips, obviously, as you can imagine. It's connecting deep into that hip joint. So head rolls with it and everything, that's it. And then come back to the middle and we'll just play with that on the opposite side, shall we? So pausing, looking at your right knee, take your right knee out. So again, we're not rolling yet, we're keeping the pelvis nice and still, and then bring it back. So looking at the knee with your eyes, let your head turn with it. Keep the pelvis still, the pelvis isn't rolling, bringing it back. So again, getting a good sense of how this hip moves. How does it feel? Is it jerky? Is it smooth? Does it move in a different way to the opposite hip? And then let the knee fall out and then roll with it. So you're going to roll onto your right side. Lifting your left knee up until you float back onto your back. Right knee comes with it. Bring the knees together. And then again, take your right knee out and roll onto your right side. Lift the left knee, roll. So using those legs to roll you from side to side. Lovely, that's it. Head stays on the floor, relaxing as much as you can. So should we go the other way now? So as you lift the left knee, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going till you go onto your left side. And then lifting your right knee, keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going till you go onto your right side. So just having that little roll across your back. Notice the order of movement. So the knee moves, the pelvis moves, the belly moves, the chest moves, the head moves. So there's an order of movement, and just follow it. Just pay attention to how you've got really, really powerful hips, and actually I would say really powerful knees. They are in control of where your body's moving, isn't it? Okay, so just resting on your back, bring your knees in towards your belly. And then see if we can come to seated like this. So we're going to keep hold of our knees. We really are. We really, really, really are. So don't let go of your knees. And then, so we're going to take the knee, let the left knee go to the floor by your left side. And as you do that, guide your right knee just to the space behind, by your the sole of your left foot. Oops, the daisy headset's going out again. And then roll back. So as you do that, lift your head up and bring your chin towards your chest a little bit as you do this. So you're going to take that left knee to the floor. Keep hold of the knees. Take your chin towards your chest as you bring that right knee just to the floor by your left foot. And then roll back. Yeah, you're there already. It's easy peasy, this one, isn't it? So coming back to seated. So back onto your back. So taking the knees over to the left. Tuck your chin in, and you're taking that right knee to the floor by your left foot. And do you feel that you can kind of roll to seated? So you're kind of letting gravity help you a little bit. And then roll back down onto your back. So again, left knee comes to the floor, right knee by your left foot, tuck your chin and kind of roll through the bones to seated. And then roll back down. Come back down onto the floor. So left knee to floor, right knee by left foot, tuck the chin and roll to seated. How fun is this? And then when you're ready, roll back down. Shall we go the other way? I think we should be doing this the other way as well. So settle back down onto your back, keeping hold of your knees. So right knee goes to the floor, tuck the chin, and you kind of, whoopsie-daisy, guide your left knee to the floor just by your right foot. And then again, roll back down onto your back. Right knee to the floor, left knee goes forwards towards the sole of your right foot. And again, as you tuck your chin, you should kind of almost kind of stiffen and roll, and just again come back onto your back. So right knee to the floor, left knee, whoopsie-daisy, by your right foot. Lift, tuck your chin and roll up. Whee! Okay, so shall we come to seated? I think we should. So just maybe do one more iteration of it, roll over, and then we're sitting. We totally are. Finally got off the floor. So tuck in your, I don't know which way to go, I'll go this way. Tuck in your toes underneath you, so and just take a little seat on your heels. I'll adjust the camera now. I became aware that you couldn't see me very well because I've got this little gadget thing and it kind of magnifies me a little tiny bit. Oh, you can see my bed now. Sorry, I'll turn that way. There, back to as was. Okay, so we're sitting on the toes and we're just going to bring our hands forwards onto the floor in front of us. And then looking down towards your knees, let your spine begin to arch. So going into cat position. So looking down towards your knees, spine arches, pushing through your hands, let your head drop. And then lift your tailbone up. So you can feel, as you lift your tailbone up, your spine begins to arch and you can begin to gently look forwards into our cow pose. So starting again the movement with your tailbone, tuck it under. Tuck the tailbone under and feel how your spine begins to roll. Let your head drop at the very last minute. And then again, lifting your tailbone up. Just pay attention to what happens to the spine. Spine begins to arch. And then again, lower the tailbone. Follow the movement into the spine. Let your head begin to drop. Lifting the tailbone. Feel the tummy begin to lengthen and look forwards. And then just do that again one more time. So let your tailbone guide you into your cat-cow. Be with the sensations. Be with what the bones are wanting to do. Maybe close your eyes. Really tune into what you can feel happening deep in the spine. And then pausing. Taking your right foot out from, like pivot your right foot out. So keep the knee on the floor. You're pivoting that right foot out to the side. And then all I want you to do now is just try to bring the ball of the right foot into the floor. So the right knee begins to lift. And then try to bring the right heel into the floor so that you kind of begin to lean back into the sole, into that left foot. So your right sole's on the floor, right knee lifts. And then come back to all fours. So that right knee comes back to the floor. So lift up try to bring the right heel into the floor. So the right knee lifts. As you bring the right heel to the floor, you're kind of leaning back into that sole of the right foot, right knee lifts. And again, bring that knee back to the floor. So you're going to bring that sole. Imagine you've got some paint on your right foot and you want to make a really lovely footprint on your floor with that right foot. Easing your hips back and again, sinking back. Easing your hips back, sinking back. Just notice your spine kind of goes into a little side bend, doesn't it, as you do this? And then when you're ready, let's switch legs. So bring the right knee back to the floor and then let's do the same with the left leg. So just take that foot out slightly to the left and then imagine you've got paint on the sole of your left foot. You want to bring the ball of the foot and the heel of the foot into the floor. Ease your hips back, follow the movement, and then bring the knee back to the floor and come back to all fours. So again, that knee lifts and you bring the sole of the left foot into the floor. Ease your hips back and then again take the knee back to the floor. So rolling through the footprint, just take your time. Just think about having, paint on that footprint on the foot and you want to just make a nice little mark on your floor with your foot. And then rolling back to center, just again, looking down towards the floor. We're going to move into a bit of a downward facing dog. So take your bottom down to your heels. Use your hands just to push forwards, lift your knees up. And then begin to open out the legs, looking down towards your feet. So we're just keeping the backs of the knees nice and soft, spreading the hands. And whenever you want, this is your dog, you can come back down because we're just going to play with this a little bit. So, reverse the movement, knees come to floor and then coming back to all fours. So bottom comes down to heels. Lift the knees and extending up and back into dog. So it might be you're going to stay in your dog. You might do fewer dogs than I do. Have a little, when you're in your dog, shake your tail a little bit, let your weight go from foot to foot, feeling the lengthening effects down the side of the leg. And then when you want to, again, roll back down, come back onto all fours. And you can always have a little resting child. That's absolutely fine. This is your class. So particularly in somatic lessons, you don't want to fight what you're doing. So if you tend to find that it's getting a little bit stressful, a little bit tired, the body is going to notice that, it's going to stiffen. So you've got to always have those little rests whenever you need to. So again, finding your dog if you wish to, one more time. And then if you want to, should we walk our hands in towards the feet? So letting your weight go into the soles of your feet. And we can bend our knees a little bit and fold our arms and let our bellies kind of rest here, and just think about relaxing the spine here. Or you might be completely happy taking this into a full fold. The choice is utterly yours. So again, please don't go into anything that feels injurious. And then from here, bending your knees, coming back onto all fours, walking yourself back, and then let's settle back into child's pose. So settle down. So if you need to support your head, you can always kind of make two little fists. You can always have your head on the floor. So from here, should we go over onto our tummies? I think that might be quite nice. So use your shins. It sounds really odd, but push your shins down the floor. Try to push your feet into the floor. You'll feel your bottom begin to lift. Just keep following that movement until you're on all fours. Hips begin to come forward towards the floor. Bend your elbows and take yourself down onto your tummy. I'm just going to change position now so I can keep a beady eye on you. So you're now on your tummy with your, if you could bring your hands out as though you're going to do a press up. So palms on the floor, elbows pointing to the ceiling, laying completely on your belly. We kept going. There you go. And if you could just let your forehead rest on the floor completely. I think one of you's got glasses on, so if you can take your glasses off, that'd be absolutely awesome. Then you won't break your glasses. So your forehead is completely on the floor. So just let the weight of the head be supported by the floor. And just notice your neck. Feel the length of your neck as well. And just kind of start to say no with your head. So you're just going to turn your head a little to the left, a little to the right. And think about rolling your head. Don't let your head slide. So just notice as you turn your head one way, you can feel maybe your right eyebrow, your right temple on the floor. And then as you roll your head the other way, you can feel your left eyebrow, your left temple on the floor. So if you're kind of noticing that you're sliding your head, we're not sliding, roll it. Again, imagine you've got some paint on your forehead and you want to paint a pretty picture with your forehead on the floor. So just, start to keep rolling your head. And as you're rolling your head, you might notice that your head is actually controlling your spine. Your spine begins to kind of sway from left to right. And you might find that your shoulders are kind of doing a little dance on your back as well, that your shoulders kind of feel like they're sliding from left to right, and your elbows and your hands feel like they're moving, but they're not. It's all because you're moving your head. So roll the head. Follow the movement down into your hips. And if there's a part of the body that kind of needs this, maybe rest on one side and just take a breath. Let your ear rest into the floor and open out that side. Take some really big deep breaths into your belly, into your ribs, and open out that side. And then when you're ready, coming back to middle, keep your forehead on the floor, but then start to pay attention to your shoulders. So your shoulders, again, are very powerful. So we notice our knees are very powerful. Our knees got us to roll, got us to sit up, didn't they? So these shoulders are going to lift the chest up. So bringing your right shoulder towards your right ear, so you're shrugging the shoulder, and then guide that right shoulder back towards the ceiling. Notice that as you do that, you kind of float up a little bit. Draw that right shoulder down towards your bottom, and you peel up a little bit more. You're actually kind of contracting that right side a little, and then relax back to the floor. Let the movement go. Right shoulder to right ear, back towards the ceiling, down towards your bottom. So you shouldn't be using your hands, but you could, if you look, you might be looking towards your right wrist, and then again peel back down towards the floor. Right shoulder to right ear, towards the ceiling behind, and then down towards your bottom, and then back down again. Right shoulder to right ear, towards the ceiling, down towards your bottom. Let it peel the rib cage off the floor, and then again relax back down. Just one more time if you've just kind of started with it. So I just want you to focus on that shoulder blade on the back ribs, and it's kind of drawing down the back, and as those muscles contract, it lifts the chest. So pause, have a look at your left shoulder this time. So left shoulder to left ear, left shoulder to the ceiling, left shoulder down the back. Let it pick you up. Slowly unwind back to the floor. Left shoulder to left ear, left shoulder to the ceiling, left shoulder down the back, and again releasing back down. So just it's kind of like a bit of a one-sided cobra. So what we're doing here is we're concentrating on those muscles in that back. So trapezius, rhomboids. So pause in and do the right shoulder, roll the right shoulder round, back and down. And then roll the left shoulder round, back and down. So you've got a little bit of a dancing cobra going on. Do you feel that? You can feel your head floating up, your chest floating up. You might even feel some kind of tightness down the side waist, and the side waist lengthening each time you return to the floor. And then pausing. Relaxing onto the floor, and bend your knees. So your feet are now pointing to the ceiling, keeping your hands in this little press-up position. And then all we're going to do is take the knees to the left, and the feet to the left and the feet to the right. So like two little windscreen wipers, turning your feet to the left and your feet to the right. And just notice as you do that, your pelvis kind of waggles around, doesn't it? Like a little, again, I'm not using dogs as analogies, aren't they? But, wag your tail. So you're sending the feet to the left, feet to the right, like two little windscreen wipers, feeling your tailbone moving. And as you take your feet to the right, you might feel your left hip lifting. And as you take your feet to the left, you might feel your right hip lifting. So just notice your pelvis is kind of rocking from side to side. It's twisting a little, isn't it? And what we can do is we can do something else. So as you take your feet over to the left next time, lift your right thigh up and just keep going so your pelvis turns and your feet begin to float. That's it. And then roll back. I'll do that again. So you're taking the feet over to the left, lift your right thigh up so your pelvis begins to turn. And then come back. So again, just be really, really careful with it. I'll just turn slightly to the camera again so you might be able to see that a little bit better. So feet go over to the left, and you're bringing that right foot up away from the floor, the right knee away from the floor, so the pelvis turns. And then we could go the other way, so bring that thigh back down. So you're going to take the feet over to the right, lifting your left thigh up so the pelvis turns. And then roll back. So feet over to the right, lift the left thigh, and you just go into wherever feels comfortable. Please don't push this into anything that feels crazy. Okay, so shall we use this as a way to come to seated again? I think we could, couldn't we? So settling onto your belly with your hands in your little press-up position. Taking your feet over to the right, lift your left thigh so your pelvis turns. And as you do that, press into your left hand so you can maybe come up a little bit to seated. And then Rebend your left elbow and come back down onto your tummy. So those feet go over to the right. Let your left thigh begin to lift and then press into your left hand, straighten the arms, and give your hands a little bit of a push. You can come to seated. If you're not, there you go, and then roll back down. So it's a spiral. Feet go to the right, lift the left thigh, push into your left hand and spiral up to seated. And then we're going to stay there. So coming up to seated, we're going to just take our legs out in front of us, bending the knees. And then placing your hands on the floor just behind you. I can see you. There you go. Okay. So knees really nice and wide. So if your feet are together, it's going to interrupt it. So have the knees nice and wide. And then drop your knees over to the left. And as you do that, your pelvis will begin to float up. Roll in the other way. So knees go to the right, pelvis begins to float. Think about your knees moving your pelvis. So just think about nothing other than the knees moving the pelvis. So as those knees move, the pelvis moves. That's it. And your hands just kind of have to follow a little bit. So the next time your knees come over to the left, take your right hand around to the left side as well. So I'll just spin around a little bit so I'm facing this way. So now I've got my left knee on the floor. My left foot is resting on the floor. The side of my right knee is just behind my left foot and my fingers are on the floor just in front of my left knee. And then I'm just going to slide my left hand in so it's just by my left thigh, and then I'm sitting up with my left leg in front of me, and I'm just going to bring this right hand in front of my chest, and I'm looking really softly at the fingers of this right hand. I'm just going to come a little bit closer to the camera. There you go. And so just imagine this arm can't move. The only thing that can move is the chest. So start to take your chest around to the left. Keep the hand in the same position. So you're just looking at that hand and then softly return back. That's it. So you're turning the body around to the left. So you're going to feel your right hip begin to float. And each time you come back, you're going to feel that right hip coming back to the floor. So just keep looking at the hand, turn the pelvis, turn the rib cage, keep looking at the hand. So the hand stays still. Really soft gaze with the eyes. Because believe it or not, that makes the movement really easy, a lot easier. If you stare, it tightens it all up. So just keep the eyes really soft. Notice how you move as you do this. Does it feel stiff? Does it feel easy to do? And then relax, place your hands on the floor just in front of your left knee. So I've got my hands either side of the knee. And then lift your tailbone up, so behind you. Try to float the tail up to the ceiling. It's going to lengthen your belly, your heart comes forwards. And then try to take your tailbone to the floor. So try to sit back. So as your bottom comes to the floor, it's going to round your spine and draw you back. And then lift your tailbone up. Feel how the belly comes forwards. Feel how the heart comes forwards. And then again, try to sit down on your bottom. Bring that bottom towards the floor, round the spine, and you kind of tuck your bottom. You're going to kind of imagine you want to look into your belly button. And then lift your tailbone up. Feel how your spine begins to stack. So we're kind of doing a bit of a cat-cow, but we're in a little bit of a wonky position, aren't we? So just be guided by your pelvis. Tilt it down and tilt it forwards. And just let that movement go down through the spine, into the shoulders. You might feel that right side is a little bit longer than the left side. And then settling back into seated. So just coming back to where we were a second ago. So placing your left hand on the floor by your left hip. Bringing the right hand back around in front of you. Again, looking softly at the fingers. And then again, turn the body around. So again, how does that feel? Does it feel a little bit easier to do? Keep looking at the hand. And you might feel you've got a little bit more space to turn. You might be noticing that your movement is a little bit different. So then when you're ready, settle back down, placing your right hand on the floor behind you and just drop your knees to the right. Drop your knees to the left. Drop your knees to the right. So let your knees move the pelvis. Think of the knees moving the pelvis. As that left thigh comes forwards, the pelvis turns. As the right side comes to the floor, the pelvis turns. Settling over on your right side again this time. So I've now got my right foot in front of my left thigh. And I can feel my left buttocks on the floor. And that left foot is just somewhere comfortable behind me. Placing now, spin around, your right hand on the floor just by your right hip, or your right, what is it called? It's called a hip, and fingertips on the floor. Left hand comes up in front of you. So again, the arm isn't moving, it's the chest that moves. It's just giving us a focal point. You can always place the hand on the chest if that helps. And then turn the body around to the right. So the chest turns, noticing how your left hip floats up. And then turn the body back to where you started. Let your left hip come to the floor. Your right knee might lift, that's fine. Turn the body around to the right. Left hip begins to float. Turn the body back to the center. And just do that a few times. Be really gentle with it. Take your time just to be really soft with the movement. So please don't think about wrenching this. Just think about just turning softly and letting go in the tummy. Letting go deep down into the tummy. And then placing your hands down on the floor, either side of your right knee. So again, fingertips, knuckles, palms, whatever feels best. And then lift your tailbone up. So as your tailbone lifts up off the floor, it pushes your belly forwards, it pushes your heart forwards. And then tailbone, bring it down to the floor. As you try to take a seat on your tailbone, your spine rounds. And then float your tailbone up. Let the pelvis tilt forwards, let the spine tilt forwards, let the spine lengthen. And again, bring it down to the floor. Noticing how your left side begins to lengthen as you do this. So again, it's like a cat-cow, but a little bit wonky. Just pay attention deep inside what's happening in the hips. And then taking your hand again back to that right side, just by your right hip. Left hand again in front of your chest. Turn again around to the left and around again, and just notice how that movement feels. Does it feel a little bit freer? Does it feel a little bit less restricted? Do you see a little bit more of the space around to the right? So just placing your hands on the floor behind you, bring those knees back out in front again, have a little roll to the left and a little roll to the right. The mat's done what it says it's going to do. It's gone for a walk. Let's bring it back. Okay, so from here, extend your legs out in front of you. This is going to be like the last movement that we do. So take a seat on your sit bones again. You could bend your knees if you find it really difficult to sit with your legs straight. If it kind of pulls you and you're like, you can always bend your knees and take a nice, perch on your sit bones. And then placing your left hand on the floor by your left hip. Bring your right hand out in front of you. And we're going to take this into a fold, but I want you to imagine that someone is guiding you with your right hand. So imagine that someone has got your right wrist and they're going to take it on a journey. So, just think about relaxing the arm, give it a bit of a wiggle. Think of the arm being relaxed and just focus on the fingertips of your right hand. And slowly bring your right hand around and over your left thigh and just let your chest turn a little bit with it. And then bring that hand back in front of you. You're just looking at the fingers, taking the right hand over towards your left leg, your left shin, and bring it back. And just let the hand turn the chest. Let the hand turn the chest. If you notice your arms going and your chest is stiff, let the hand turn the chest. Lovely, really nice. Keep looking at the hand, nice and soft. If the arm gets heavy, you can always relax it off and do it again. Notice that your right hip becomes a little bit lighter as you turn. So as you take that hand over, my right hip is beginning to lift a little bit. And what would be quite nice now is just to let your right foot roll with the movement. So as you bring that right hand over to the left, let your right foot roll with the movement. So can you feel then your right hip begins to lift as you roll the foot? So bring the hand over, let the right hip begin to lift. So we can, it's not just a movement for the shoulders, it's getting into the hip again. We've got a beautiful little twist going on. In fact, what might be quite nice is now just to let your left foot roll with the movement. So let your left little toe kind of roll towards the floor. Okay, so from here we're going to pause. We're going to start to come forwards towards this fold that I promised you. So just relax the shoulders. Taking your right hand out in front of you, gazing at the wrist, gazing at the thumb. Take that hand over, but then this time just imagine that they're going to pull that hand forwards towards your toes. Let your chest begin to follow the movement, begin to lean forwards. Don't let the hand come to the floor, keep lengthening forwards. Try to keep a distance between your toes and your hand, and then come back to seated. Drop the arm, let go of the tension. Floating the hand back up, looking at the hand. Take it carefully over the left, and then start to again imagine someone's pulling the wrist, rolling it forwards towards the toes, over the foot. Keep that distance. Let your right foot roll in. Feel how your left side begins to lengthen, the right side begins to lengthen, then roll back to seated. Place the hand back down and again let it go. One more time, hand floats up, hand over. Let the hand float forwards, let the whole body follow it. Arm follows, rib cage follows, chest follows, and then come back and take a little seat. And then just one more time, we'll just do it again, float forwards. This time at the end, drop the hand like a puppet to the floor and let your gaze turn down towards your shin and pause. Take some really big deep breaths into this right side. Hand resting on the floor. And then moving back to seated, just take a moment just to pause and just to check out your right side compared to your left side. So feeling the rib cage on the right, the shoulders on the right, the fingers on the right arm. And then placing your right hand on the floor just behind you and taking the left hand up again, shoulders nice and loose, arms nice and soft. And again, just think about this hand trying just to float somewhere over the right shin. So bring it around, bring it back, bring it around, bring it back. And what I tend to find is actually at first I think, oh, it's in the shoulders, and I start to notice the movement travels further down into the hip, and I can feel this left hip kind of wanting to join the party. So I'm just letting it lift a little. Just, float the hand over and let the left hip lift a little. And then as you notice that left hip lifting a little bit, you'll notice your left foot wanting to roll, so let it roll. Let that movement carry itself down into the left heel, the left big toe. And then you might even then notice that the right foot is joining in. So that right foot rolls. Let your right foot roll towards the floor, both knees rolling in the same direction. And then settle down, relax your hands, and we're going to start to come into this little fold, aren't we? So this left hand is going to move somewhere over the foot. So don't let it come to the foot just yet. We're not trying to reach for any toes. So again, the hand comes up, relax the shoulder, and then start to slowly again, thinking about moving from the hand. Hand moves, elbow moves, chest moves. Start to float it forwards. Let the body follow the movement. Turn your gaze towards the floor, reach forwards and then come back. So think about planting your hips to come back, relaxing the arm. Hand comes up, hand moves, elbow, elbow moves shoulders. Just see how far you can reach with those hands. Let the hand guide the movement, bring it back. You can feel the movement deep down into the hips, can't you? So as you bring that hand along and forwards, let that left pelvis kind of roll with it. Let the left knee roll in with it a little. And then what we can begin to do is settle in. So the hand reaches up, the hand moves over towards the right foot. Roll, slide forwards, go as far as you feel that you want to, and then drop the hand like a puppet on the floor. Turn the gaze towards the shin and come back into your breathing. Notice your breathing. Take some really good big deep breaths all the way down into the left side waist. And then stacking yourself back to seated. We'll lay down. So find a way to settle back down onto your back. And just let your legs find the floor in front of you. Hands rest down by your side. And re-engaging with how it is to breathe. So if you can remember from the beginning of the lesson, just noticing how your body rests into the floor, the weight of the head, the shoulders, the hips, the thighs, the feet. Sensing the space behind the neck and the lower back. Do we feel a little softer, like there is more ability to let the ground support us? Sense the length of the legs from hips to toes. Sense the length of the arms all the way down to the fingertips. And spend some time just with your breath for the next few moments. And then standing your feet up again, just in front of your hips, so knees point to the ceiling. Just again, roll your tailbone forwards into the floor and let your lower back round into the floor. And just notice the movement. Is it deeper? Is it easier? Is it less restricted? Is it less painful? Do we feel like we have more movement in the lower back? Is there a bigger echo between the head and the pelvis? And again, just rock your pelvis from side to side, roll across the back of the hips. How does that feel? And then have a little circle of the pelvis. How does that feel? And then find a way to roll to seated. In fact, you can always bring those knees, place your hands on your knees, take your right knee to the floor, bring your left knee forwards. Woo, pink up, you don't know. Maybe not. There we go. So I've done. Hey, I can see your forehead again there, Olivia. Right, I'll stop the recording. Eek.